I wish to extend you a very warm welcome from the Serbian Unity Congress, US. Please allow me to take a few moments to give you a brief background about the genesis of the idea behind the Serbian American Women's Leadership Network, or SAWLN, or our network. This project is a natural offshoot of the original mission of our organization, the Serbian Unity Congress. We were founded 22 years ago in the United States by Serb Americans in order to bring together diaspora resources of expertise, networks, and finance to contribute to Serbian people's efforts toward democratization and economic development in the former Yugoslavia. That's while there was still a former Yugoslavia. That original mission was sidetracked during the wars of the 90s, but we got back on track soon after those wars ended. That mission has endured and continues to be operative to this day. It is in this spirit that this network was created. We have had a presence in Belgrade, and Slavka Drašković has headed the Serbian Unity Congress in Serbia since 1991. The events of the 90s resulted in punishing sanctions and the vilification of the Serbian people, severely hampering our efforts to assist. As Serbian Americans, we felt it imperative that Serbian-American relations improve, and we focused on this effort. Sanctions put Serbia's economy back 20 years. Sanctions cut off the professional sector of Serbia from the world by disallowing mailing of professional magazines, travel to international professional conferences, and other such onerous restrictions. Catching up was a daunting challenge, but Serbia had to catch up if it was to survive. During this time, Dr. Slavka Drašković and I noticed that while the demonization of Serbs was widespread, Serbian women were not included in the vilification. Additionally, as Serbian women, it was clear to us that Serbian women were exceptional. They were competent, responsible, highly educated, and in this culture, they knew how to juggle many more balls at one time than their male counterparts. In short, we felt that they could much more easily and effectively be the agents for improving Serbia-US relations and getting Serbia back on track. We agreed that Serbian women would be the best ambassadors for Serbia. Our original idea was to organize Serbian women to develop relationships with American women in their fields and start the catching up process. At that time, we felt that it was extremely important that relationships be developed between Serbia's women in politics and their counterparts in the US. We wanted to introduce them to the concept and to the members of the Women's Congressional Caucus in the US Congress. I also wanted to introduce them to women's political organizations, such as Emily's List, of which I was a member and am still a member, for the Democratic Party women, and the counterpart for Republican Party women. These organizations are extremely effective in the US as organizations of women that promote and finance the election of women in the US for state and federal level office. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, Minority Leader of the US House of Representatives today, and the key Democratic representative, and formerly the first woman Speaker of the House, was my representative to Congress some years ago. At one of the Emily's List events, I approached both Mrs. Ellen Malcolm, Emily's List founder, and Congresswoman Pelosi to sound them out on the idea of building a relationship between women politicians in Serbia and the US along these lines. They were both extremely supportive and loved the idea. Congresswoman Pelosi told me to contact the head of the Women's Congressional Caucus to tell her that she, Congresswoman Nancy, liked the idea and that we should meet and pursue it. Mrs. Malcolm gave me the name of the head of Emily's List in the Washington office, and asked me to call her with the same message. So we knew we were on the right track. It took some time for our idea to come to fruition, but Slavka and I were persistent. With time, the original concept of the Serbian American Women's Leadership Network evolved into the current project. As our relationship grew with the U.S. State Department in Washington and the U.S. Embassy in Belgrade, we started to explore this idea with representatives both in Washington and here. We have had wonderful encouragement and support from all, including former Ambassador Cameron Munter, current Ambassador Mrs. Warwick, former Deputy Chief of Mission Jennifer Brush, Deputy Assistant Secretaries at the State Department Rosemary DiCarlo and Stuart Jones, former Chiefs of Mission of USAID Keith Simmons, Michael Harvey, and current Chief of Mission of USAID Ms. Susan Fritz, former USAID representative and wonderful and indefatigable supporter Marilyn Schmidt, and others. With their financial, moral, and professional support and partnership, Slavka and I, that is the Serbian Unity Congress in the US and here, realized a long-held dream for Serbian women leaders to take their place in the process of growing and improving Serbia's relationship with the US. We had a very successful Serbia Women Leaders delegation visit to the US in October. 16 of our network's women leaders came to Washington and New York, met leading professional women in their fields, launching the beginning of the network, and now with this conference, the effort continues and the network grows. The delegation represented an intelligent, highly professional face of Serbia wherever they visited: US Congress, State Department, academia, business, non-governmental sector, and more. In our opinion, Serbia could not have had a better public relations effort than this. And I might add, it took women to recognize that only with Serbian women could this be achieved. While there were times when Serbia-US relations were strained, the support and encouragement we received from the US Embassy have been consistent. They shared our view that Serbia's women are an invaluable representative of Serbia, that Serbia needs to acknowledge and foster the leadership of women in taking Serbia to its better future. Their role in that path is irreplaceable. Our hope now is that during this conference, relationships among you will grow and that seeds will be sown for future cooperation and network expansion. One of the conference objectives is that on Sunday during the wrap-up session, next steps for our network will be laid out, and each of you will leave with a clear idea of how you can contribute to the future development of this network and every participant's mutual benefit. Thank you for coming, and happy networking.